Hi, Garth. Just for those folks who don't know Garth, Garth is the principal at Brown Brown Conveyancers, and he also has a wealth of resources on conveyancers.net.au. So welcome today, Garth, and in our ongoing discussion around properties and the changes there are in the marketplace. So what are we talking about today, Garth?
We're going to talk about really what the pandemic's done with buying and selling properties.
Hmm.
Um, how that it's interesting that the restrictions that are there in some parts of the country or most of the country, and then how some people have gone around to buy and sell properties,
Hmm.
and the digitisation of how people are buying and selling and even consuming legal services.
Really? And I mean, so what changes have you seen there?
Well, the days have gone where you have to go into an inner city or a lawyer's office or a conveyancer's office to sign a contract,
Yeah.
um, to have it explained to you about what's involved. Particularly with the advent of the iPhone and the iPad
Hmm.
and cloud-based software,
Hmm.
as long as the practitioner has access to the internet,
Yeah.
and they can basically handle all of these legal matters, particularly conveyancing. I know a lot of other matters are going that way as well. Um, Digitally signing documents, explaining them through Zoom meetings, um, things of that nature. Yeah, it's
So what do you I mean, Garth? That's an interesting one because I mean, what proportion of the population do you think actually have access to that technology? And for the folks that don't, I mean, you've got people that are, I guess, are still the traditional view of like, pen and paper and eyeball and those kind of things, the physical presence. I mean, how do you deal with the folks that actually don't have the technological literacy, to use lack of better words?
yeah. I think the average age in Australia is about 34, 38, something like
Hmm.
that. And most people, probably from 50 years below, have some sort of technical literacy or
Hmm.
computerized experience. But yes, there are some that still are old. I mean, I've had elderly clients in their 80s. We had to basically go and see them face to face. And that was fine. That doesn't happen very often, but it does happen because they just don't want to know about computers and things.
Yeah.
Um, so that was an interesting experience. We trying to find the title and they couldn't find it, and all sorts of things going on there.
Going on the topic we talked about last week, do you think there's a role for conveyancers and lawyers to actually educate their clients on technology?
Well, yeah, it's. I think if, as a lawyer or a conveyancer, if you're not using technology, you're going to be left behind. So you've really got
Hmm.
to educate your clients as to what to expect and how it works. Sometimes I do have to spend a little bit of time on the phone. Most people are able to get a hold of it. They've got usually family or friends that help them. I know of my parents.
Hmm.
I sent them something to sign electronically, and my dad's in his 80s, and
Hmm.
he didn't know what to do, so he went next door and got his neighbour to help him to do it on
Okay.
his phone. So
Okay.
there are ways around these things, and but they do happen. But they're becoming rarer and rarer as time goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, what are you finding in terms of, I mean, the whole process of gosh, selecting a property and inspecting a property, but for buyers out there, I mean, what would you advise for people in this I guess where things are becoming more digital and where there's restrictions in place?
Yeah, look, there in most cases, when it comes to inspecting properties, at this particular point, you've got to have one person with one agent with wearing face masks and hands washed to inspect a property.
Hmm.
Um, but I do see there's a real trend toward people buying properties without actually inspecting them, sight
Wow.
unseen.
Wow.
And yeah, it doesn't really sit that comfortably with me because you really want to get a feel of what the place is like by having a look inside. And I mean, some people will look at pictures on the internet from what's there on realestate.com.au, or they'll
Hmm.
drive past the outside, or maybe there's a virtual tour, a video of what's inside the home.
Hmm.
Um, so there are people who are prepared to do that, to take a risk
Hmm.
and to buy sight unseen. I mean, these are $1 million odd properties. I mean, it's quite a, it's one of the most expensive purchase you'll make in your life. So
What kind of protections could you put in place? I mean, I guess there's virtual tours, there's getting other people to look at properties, potentially speaking for you on your behalf. There's two questions here. If you're a buyer, what things can you do yourself, and what should you be expecting from your lawyer or conveyancer?
Oh, okay. Well, really, before you purchase maybe a home,
Hmm.
you really need to do a pest and building report and
Hmm.
to organise that, possibly through the agent that's
Hmm.
showing you the property. You want to make sure it's free of termites or activity of termites, past or present.
Hmm.
Place is structurally sound.
Hmm.
There's nothing that's been added onto without council approval.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to signing the contract, you really need your lawyer or conveyancer to test those vendor warranties.
Hmm.
And that is that there's what's known as this vendor disclosure sale of land regulations 2017. There's all these vendor warranties there. I think they're part 3 or part 4 of them,
Yeah.
and it's basically saying that the vendor warrants that there's no proposals for state government or local government to put a road through this property or a
Okay.
railway or to
Okay.
acquire land for education or
Yeah.
for power lines. There's a whole heap of these vendor warranties that the vendor is warranting if they're not
Yeah.
disclosed in the contract.
Yeah.
So the purchaser's testing these after they've signed and exchanged and in a binding agreement
Yeah.
that they can get out of this if it's not disclosed.
Right.
So they're the things that your lawyer needs to or conveyancer needs to be undertaking for you.
Yeah.
They also need to look at the boundaries
Yeah.
for making sure there's no encroachments because they're a real nightmare if there's a boundary issue.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing is too that most of that the building is and all structures are council approved or don't have a demolition or upgrade order on them.
Yeah.
And when I remember when I first started in practice, it was so hard to get the council out there to issue a certificate on that.
Yeah.
And so what we've really done now is taken out insurance, what's known as title insurance.
Okay.
And that covers for anything like that could happen post settlement while you're the owner of that property. It's a once off premium,
Yeah.
but it covers a whole host of issues that could come up. So I think
Mhm.
if you really need to make sure if you're a consumer of conveyancing services
Yeah.
that your conveyancer or lawyer actually title insures your purchase. It's so important.
Right. And what
Uh,
sort of prices? What's that roughly cost? I mean, what's the
I think
roughly?
around 1.5 million. I think it's probably around $1,500, something like that.
I mean, pretty good investment, really. From
It
I guess.
is, yeah. I mean, you're paying a lot of stamp duty, probably 80 odd thousand in stamp duty, somewhere
Yeah.
around there. And why quibble around $1,500? It's nothing.
Yeah. No, it's another cost, I guess, of acquiring the property. But
And it's really
yeah.
good because it's able to come in and basically, in most cases, compensate you for any loss that you've suffered.
I just want to move back into the sort of cyber world, Garth. I guess everyone's moving more into the digital side of things and doing practice online and inspecting properties and doing all sorts of stuff online in terms of transactions. How important is people's cybersecurity and
Oh,
tools and software in place?
look, one of the biggest claims on legal PI insurances now is cyber fraudsters.
Right.
And, and it's so important that you avoid emailing your clients. And there's a couple of tools that's available. One of them's Secure Exchange, where you actually are in a secure internet space where you can load up documents, have them signed, and communicate with your client.
Hmm.
And anything to do with agents' trust accounts or even your own legal trust accounts, the client goes in there to access those details.
Okay, so it's a secure portal.
Secure portal. And
Okay.
Smokeball has another very good one too, known as Communicate, where it's a secure pipeline. It's like MSN messaging, so it's only
Right.
available for those parties who have been verified to communicate with each other. So it's a very, very good one. And Leap has another one called known as Law Connect,
Yeah.
and it's very similar to a secure exchange, a secure internet portal for documents, for sharing information. Because it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm getting emails all the time about transferring money here or there, and I even had my brother-in-law. He My mother-in-law was going to a nursing home,
Yeah.
and I said to him, make sure you recheck with your financial planner
Yeah.
before you put that money into that nursing home's trust account.
Yep.
They went down to the bank to, I mean, it's $500,000.
Yeah.
And they're just about to put it into this account that they were emailed.
Yeah.
And he said, hang on just a moment, I better check. I'll ring back to the financial planner to recheck those BSB and account numbers.
Yep.
And he did that, and they were different to what had been emailed to him.
Wow.
So
Wow.
you could imagine when he
Ooh.
come running into the room and saying, stop.
Oh, my goodness me.
Yeah. So
My
it's very,
goodness
very
me.
important to move away from email when it comes to not only communicating with your client, but even sharing these details for deposits, for money transferred to settle a conveyance or a divorce or a will or things of that nature. It's so important not to email those details. And
That is one to watch out for, isn't it?
yeah, cybersecurity, it's a big issue. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
you get some fraudsters that conveyancers and lawyers have downloaded an attachment, just sits there for maybe 6 or 12 months, just watching everything, and then they'll pick a target and go for that particular matter and try and manipulate that and have money. It's a big payday if it comes off.
Oh, exactly. No, that's wow. Wow. I mean,
Because everything's gone digital, basically, as long as you've got internet access, cloud-based software, all these integrations with your searching platforms, creating contracts electronically, that's all now being done via PEXA, online settlement platform, which is really great. And I couldn't believe some of the opposition that was towards that until it was mandated a couple of years back. It was fantastic. It saved so much time.
oh yeah. I mean, would do. It would absolutely would do.
And the last part of that is really there's no more e-title or paper titles. In some parts of Australia, that's already gone. In New South Wales, it's starting to, that'll finish on the 11th of October, no more paper titles.
Big
Because
changes.
there's too many fraudsters making up their own titles.
That is just incredible. I mean, you sit back and you think to yourself, like, it's such a significant investment life property, and the ability to actually be scammed out of deposits and property itself. I mean, wow. In terms of using Zoom and those kind of tools that you use for client meetings, I mean, what do you recommend?
I've used Zoom most of the time.
Yeah.
And I think more people are more familiar with that than with Teams.
Yeah.
But Teams is okay. I mean, it's not hard technology to use once you get used to the microphone and the video.
Should conveyancers and lawyers record these meetings, because so you've got all the facts,
Well, yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, there is an automatic record that you can put on your Zoom meeting, and that's not bad to try and cover yourself in case of a PI claim.
I guess you'd ask for consent as well, wouldn't you, at the beginning, sort of just letting them know that that's been recorded and ask for consent, and or even prior to actually setting up a meeting, saying, these meetings are recorded for you and for I,
Yes.
for both of us, so we can go back and look at things and give you a copy of it.
Yes.
But that's what we've got.
But it's a great tool because by being able to put it up in the cloud and going digital, it has been a great way to enjoy your work better, because otherwise you're sort of like you're confined to a jail or solitary confinement in some of those offices, and it's pretty tough going to do that 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, 5 days a week and travel there and back, where you can just basically do it with your phone wherever you are, or an iPad.
I mean, potentially speaking, you could be a digital nomad conveyancer. You could be anywhere in the world. You could see on a Thailand beach in Thailand and actually like doing transactions for clients there, and be all over Australia. Really, you could be anywhere.
The whole world has changed, and I have read about. I think it's in Canada. I think it is. Some parts of the world are moving to what's known as blockchain.
Yep. Yep.
Another very interesting technology, and that's basically where
Definitely.
all the data that goes in to a particular matter, once that's all put in there, it just automatically carries out all the searches and things and completes and does the transfer
Yeah.
on title.
Yeah.
It's a computerized program. So I may be out of a job in the next few years, so we'll see what happens.
Well, I guess it's around the things you talk about, around the value, around the investigation. I mean, being affected like the magnum of property, where you can kind of like, without moustache and stuff, of course. But you've got bad joke there. But finding out, the ins and outs of, is this property, is there issues with the property, yeah, putting the value around that, and that's where the value is, and the transaction itself, yeah, as you say, it is increasingly becoming automated, but the background research, that stepping people through the process, being like a coach, almost like being a coach in terms of taking people through this process. That's where there's value.
Yeah, yeah. It's really to have that experience and know-how of what to look out for and those red herrings that can pop up. I know that in my industry, there's a lot of people that a lot of consumers will just pick up the phone and pick the cheapest one, cheapest quote they can get, and no regard to any of the quality of the service or the investigations or the added value.
Mm.
And then when they find there's a problem, now a lot of those claims that are made are from people who have sourced out the cheapest. And one thing in life I've learned, you get what you pay for, and
Yeah.
if you pay for a good quality product, it's safety.
I mean, it's interesting because do you think the whole digital world has provided conveyancers with a better platform to actually like get a more stable flow of business? I mean, and what I mean by that is really around having proper CRM systems in place, regular client communications, putting client education videos up, lending itself to actually allowing, I guess, the billings to be more predictable for a conveyancing or real estate law type firm. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. It's a great way of educating and clients understanding why are you different from someone else? Because a lot of people don't understand that. And having videos, I know I've got a few on my website. I've got a couple of electronic books,
Hmm.
having an app,
Hmm.
and I see a lot of lawyers in the legal profession falling down with not keeping in touch with clients at least once a month via an electronic letter,
Mm.
because that's where the growth of your practice will come from, is from that, rather than trying to chase people outside of that environment.
I mean, do you think I mean, what kind of linkages do conveyancers have with accountants in terms of from a business standpoint? Because I'd imagine that so the accountants are like the GP and they kind of like refer work out and that sort of thing. So do you have a network of accountants you work with?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when it comes to GST, I mean, lawyers, those in the legal profession, particularly dealing with property, are not GST um, as savvy or qualified as an accountant does, who's a property accountant that specialises in GST, because
Mm.
some of those things are so complicated. And I've had questions from even some accountants differ on whether you should charge or not charge GST
Mm.
on a particular transaction. And my thought is just charge it, and if there's a problem, at least you've charged it.
That's right. No, exactly.
You know?
Take the safer route. To be honest, that's it. Well, Garth, if people want to find out more about how they can further digitize their practice, they can make, get better results for their clients, make revenue a bit easier to come by. How do they get in touch with you?
I love what I do, and I do consult a lot in the industry on this particular topic. So you go to my website, conveyancers.net.au,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a number of introductory resources there.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage you to make a phone call. There's the phone numbers on the website there of conveyancers.net.au, and have a chat about what we can do for you. Um, so it's about enjoying what you're doing and
Yeah.
being well paid for it, rather than the opposite to that.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Excellent. Well, thanks, Garth, today for your time as always. It's always a pleasure chatting with you, and have a great week.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. You too.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.